Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got, as always, Jameson Maxwell, Ty Lee. Uh, it happened again, guys. The Oklahoma Sooners um, took another loss in SEC play in dramatic meltdown, heartbreaking fashion, 30 to 23, and what can only be described as just I'm just gonna say it, a shit show. It was a disaster. Um, you're up, you're up a touchdown with 2 minutes left, and you straight up lose the game in regulation. That can't happen. How does this keep happening?
I don't know. I was talking to Ty before you got in here, Bobby. I'm not excited to talk about this podcast. I'm not excited to do this. This is just not fun. I don't want to be a fair weather fan where it's like, oh, Oklahoma's losing. This is the worst season that we've had for a long time. Probably one of the worst feeling seasons that we've had during our life. Probably number one worst feeling of a season. So I don't want to be spoiled and be like, oh, I'm not excited to talk about this, but it's just true. It's not fun continuously talking about stuff where there's so many things going wrong and then heartbreak happens on top of it.
Yeah, and not only that, but I feel like the way this one happened, where you actually feel like you had a chance, because I think Missouri is not a good football team. It kills you whenever it's the dumb mistakes. Like when you lose to a team that just straight up beats you, like a Texas or an Ole Miss, you can live with that. You can live with the results for that. But when it's like when you just give the game away after one side of the field, the defense plays their ass off for a good majority of that game outside of the final drive, is constantly stuck with short fields, and it's the same thing. We say it every game with a caveat. Usually is if they don't turn the just turn the game into a catastrophe by melting down, then they'll be fine. But nope, they just can't get out of their own way. Yeah, Ty, go ahead.
Please, I don't want to talk.
I was going to say, right? You guys have hit the nail on the head, right? You don't want to be a fair weather fan, and you don't want to talk about just the miserable product that this OU football team is putting out there right now, because unfortunately there's no good way to talk about it, right? We talk about, oh, these losses are embarrassing, these losses are frustrating, especially one like this where it did seem at right at the end like we had the situation finally in hand and we had that relief. But it's just unfortunate because, like we said, these are all things that no one really likes to talk about. But one thing that people love to talk about is when they're right. And I love to talk about when I'm right. And eventually, one day, after all of these losses, we will get to talk about how I was right about a certain coaching hire at OU and his tenure. But maybe today is not the day. We will see.
Bobby finally came around to it, posted on Twitter.
Yeah, no, we can.
He's out.
Oh, he did.
I don't know if
He's out on Venables now.
So I mean, that's the big thing is I don't know if he's capable of making that hire. He's not capable of fixing, the issues with discipline. The same mistakes, just the dumb details in between the margins. I feel like time after time he hasn't ironed it out yet, and I'm not saying call for like he should be fired. I think you definitely take one more go around and try to figure it out. Like with a new OC, maybe that's kicking the can down the road. Maybe that's a lack of options at the moment, in the coaching market. Maybe that's the buyout being absurd, and you don't want the wheels to completely fall off. Because that's the thing that's frustrating is I feel like there are some aspects of this team that work. Like the defense absolutely works. It's a damn good defense that is completely short-sighted by a tragic offense that at times the whole thing is just such a mess. And I feel like, yeah, maybe you can make a good hire. Maybe you can, get a solid transfer quarterback, because Jameson, I gotta say, I don't think it's Arnold either.
There's a lot of things going on, but Arnold's not helping. That's for sure.
I mean, he can't hold on to the football, Jameson. He's reverting exactly to what we saw against like Tennessee, and I don't know. I don't know if he's the guy. And this is a little bit rambly. This is a little bit unstructured, but hell, so is this OU football team.
No, that's the whole point. It's can you trust Jackson Arnold in his future to fix up the turnovers? And a lot of them, in terms of fumbles and ball security, that's a thing that you should be able to fix. That's what we saw in this game. He wasn't throwing picks left and right. So this is a little bit different, I think, than the Tennessee. Poor weather. I'm not giving him excuses, but like it is easier to fix ball security with holding on to the ball tighter, being more secure whenever you change hands, you rotate your hips, getting ready to throw. That is something you can go with coaching. So that's where I give a little hope where I'm not going to completely throw Jackson Arnold in the dump again. Because if we continue to do that, we've already seen that this is a guy, and I know this also says something about him and his character and as a player moving forward, to where whenever we critique him too much, it gets to him. The little scrum that he had where everyone was around him, this doesn't do anything positive to him moving forward. And you'd be like, oh, we deserve a better quarterback. It doesn't have to worry about that stuff. I don't know if that's a reality for us. So maybe we just got to do with what we got.
The punter out had more passing yards than him, Jameson. I know some of that scheme. I know he's not being put in a great position to,
how many times do
succeed in some ways, but
how many times do we give an opportunity to give any air yards in his throws? So whether that be scheme, whether that be our offensive line, probably both, because this offense, Joe John Finley is not going to call plays that have double moves, longer progression, whenever he knows the offensive line is not giving his quarterbacks time enough to throw. So you're going to have less yardage and you're going to chip away down the field, and you're going to have, runs like 6-yard runs here and there, or him scrambling out of the pocket sooner, because whenever he was holding on to the ball and trying to make a play down the field earlier in the season, that's whenever he was getting more turnovers. So they probably are telling him straight up, hey, we're going to get first progression here. First progression is not there. You get down and you go run for 4 yards. So if you're going to hit him on yards, I think this is a complete thing that we've done on purpose.
Yeah. I think that there is some to it, that, they're obviously not letting him air it out. But nobody's getting open. The schemes are bad. And you can only do so much whenever you make a offensive coordinator, decision mid-season. Joe John hasn't played or, called plays before, so you're limited a little bit. But at the same time, I just don't think I just don't know if I don't think he has it. I'll say this. I don't think you give up on the guy, but I definitely don't think you give him the keys, like to the offense, to the program going forward.
Do you think we have a better option? Because we did this at Dylan.
Not this year. Not this year. I think you.
Well, obviously not this year, but next year, do you think that there's going to be something better?
Maybe. I think.
I don't know, but who would want to come to this program with this offensive line? Let's be honest.
I think here's my thing. I think everything's on the table, and I think it's got to be a situation where, bring in the new OC. Maybe he has a guy and they go together, or he has a good connection, something like that. But I think everything should be on the table. So, Ty, I'm sorry, we've been yakking. What did you have to say?
I was going to say QB is something that is relatively easy to portal, and I think it's realistic to say that we can certainly go to the portal and take a step forward, because even if we take all of the turnovers and everything else off the table, right, we still haven't seen anything super, super electric from Arnold. And I will continue to say that I still believe that that's coaching, but this bleeds into some other points. We look at some of the plays during the game, yesterday, and especially you saw Dion Burks getting really frustrated because he was doing his job. He was getting open and just wasn't getting noticed several times. I think most notably, I think it was a third or fourth down early on that things kind of, they had a little discussion on the
corner of the end zone. Yeah, where they missed him. If you'd have just let it progress, I agree.
And that's all to say that really you just need to get someone who doesn't turn the ball over as often as Arnold does, which is a lot. And then can just maybe make some pedestrian stuff here and there, right? And you immediately take a step forward. So I think I don't know. That's a big question mark. I also have a big question mark that I don't want us to gloss over here. But we can continue down this offensive path. But I don't think the defense is as above reproach as OU fans are saying.
Not anymore.
I
wouldn't say above reproach, but I don't think it was bad.
We are averaging the same points per game as USC. It's like I don't understand this storyline that like, oh, the defense is great. Like, yes, compared to what it was before, the defense has taken great strides forward. But I don't think that the defense realistically is in a position where anyone should be making the argument that Venable should be retained just for his defensive prowess. Clemson has a better defense, depending on how you like. People want to say, I would say the point of the defense, right, is to prevent points. So points per game, I think, is the ultimate stat. But yards per game, Clemson's doing better than us. Points per game, Clemson's doing better than us. Obviously, people have different schedules, but even the best way that you can evaluate this OU defense is, yards per game. Sorry, I'm going through my stats here. We're still not even top half in the conference when we look at yards per game. You're talking about a number 40 scoring defense and number 42 yards defense in the nation. I understand that's vastly superior than what it was before, but it's not like if we had a top 25 defense or anything close to it, then maybe I'd be entertaining a little bit more, or I'd be more sympathetic to the idea of, oh, well, he's a defensive genius. He's just defensively above average.
Okay, that is just ridiculous, though, because you have to look at the context of situations. You have to look at short yardage. You have to look at where Missouri is getting the ball, where Texas was getting the ball. And, so many times it's because of a bad turnover where the defense is kind of against it a little bit. So, yeah, like there are some numbers that don't look great, but I don't think it can only be, you can only look at the total defense and scoring defense as a whole. Like, hell, 7 of Missouri's, what of Missouri's 3 touchdowns was, a scoop and score. So it's hard for me to, completely damn the defense or say that they're above average just because of the sheer lack of advantages they have. They are put in really bad positions frequently.
Yeah, total defense, we're number 24 in the country, according to NCAA's website. And out of those top 25 teams, we've ran the second most plays on defense out of all top 25 teams. So that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will agree. I don't think they're without reproach, though, because, you have a chance to get them off the field and,
that's the time where the OU defenses shine, and Drew Pine, an embarrassment of a quarterback that we've seen for this whole season and for the past 2 seasons, goes and leads a touchdown drive under a minute versus our defense. There's no excuse for that. I was obviously criticized earlier in the season saying I'm not going to criticize this defense after the Texas loss. I think they absolutely deserve criticism for that drive. Big time, because that's whenever you buckle down and you make big time plays, and they've done that for us this season, and they didn't, and they crumbled, and it sucks.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think you could pin it all on that, but it is unfortunate that the one drive they had all season was that, or all season. What am I saying? All game was that untimely. That's just bad.
They're not a bad defense. It was just we hoped they would be better at this in the way that they showed out on Saturday.
Yeah.
And to clarify my take a little bit more, I know I touched on this, but I'm not saying that the defense is bad necessarily. I'm speaking more, I think, towards the Venables question here of it's not a situation where you have, right, and this is going to be, I don't know how to pitch this one to like an OU fan base, right? But like Lincoln Riley offense is very easy to compare. Offense, defense, very different, right? But you have a guy who truly is like an offensive genius. And for a lot of schools, there's an argument to be made this guy's just going to produce Heisman winners and big recruits. We should retain him regardless of the performance on the other side of the ball because, and not to get into his situation at USC, right? But it's a very different thing. I think we're kind of applying that same standard here of, oh, we have some sort of savant or some sort of genius. Yes, the defense is taking great strides, but like, what's the potential ceiling on one of these deep? Are we really going to see a defense that's that much better in years to come in perfect situations? Because I think this defense, when it comes to the players, we have excellent players. There's always gaps that, could be filled. There's always those little mistakes and everything else. But I think in conclusion, that's kind of a little bit more what I was speaking to was I just don't know when I hear those talking points. Yes, things have certainly turned around, but I don't think they're to the level where it starts to excuse other things.
I think that's a fair point, and I think that was a very helpful kind of elaboration on that, because you're right. I think you're dead on that for sure, because what we have is probably the best, in my opinion, one of the best defensive coordinators in college football, but we don't have a head coach. We don't have someone who is clearly not taken a good oversight of the offense, has just kind of handed out positions because they went to OU or, had a tie to Bob Stoops or anything like that. And that side of the ball, it obviously doesn't make coaching decisions in the sense of like X's and O's, but you've got to put the team in positions to succeed. You've got to make coaching hires that make sense. You can't just pass it on to the guy who's in the building because that's what Bob Stoops did. You can't hire from within only. You have to take a critical eye at it. And it's something he's clearly not done well. And the issues that are happening with this football team, they didn't start a couple weeks ago. They didn't start in August. They started months and months and months ago when the staff was set. And in some cases, like Bill Bedenbaugh and the personnel stuff, this has been years in the making. That has just finally come to a head, and it's just really, really unfortunate.
And I feel like people the big talking points that everyone likes to talk about is like the future of Brent Venables in this program. And right now we can look at this season and what Brent Venables has done and try to say like, oh, for this season, he definitely should be out, or we should see how things go next season. But just the base of this question, I feel like really hinges on, do you think this team can make Sooner fans happy next year? Straight up. This is a very simple question. Yes or no? I don't want anything else. Do you think that this team with Brent Venables as head coach can make the Sooner fans happy next year?
So I think there's a different answer for the word can make them happy and will make them happy.
Okay, well, let's make it will. Do you think they will make them happy next year? I've seen 3 quick comments. No. What do y'all say?
Yeah.
What do you say? Yeah. Yes or no? I don't want any other words other than yes or no.
I don't know who the OC is.
No. Yes.
Probably no. Probably no.
Okay, this is the word no. So I want to hear the word no.
It is a poorly worded question on your behalf, James.
Right.
Will the Sooner fans be happy next year? Because
will this team most likely would be a better.
Well, also,
I don't want any.
Actually, the answer should always be, will the Sooner fans be happy? The answer is always no, because we've had good football teams since 2000, haven't won a title. There's still OU fans who are pissed.
But
every year.
Exactly. And that's where my talking point's going to be. It is very, very hard to keep this fan base happy. And we are already, Brent Venables is in a very, very big hole for how he started his tenure here at Oklahoma as head coach. It's going to take a lot to dig out of that hole. So is there a chance that the Sooner fans can be happy next year? And it's going to be a really, really hard yes, very easy no. And for that reason, I don't see why you wouldn't just rip the Band-Aid off now and get over with it and not waste your year.
Because I genuinely think that everything you've built about this being a culture thing, and all of that, I feel like things can tumble down quicker than you can build them back up. And I don't know if starting a full process after 3 years is the right move. Um, I I think there is one more chance. I think giving him a shot to hire outside of the tree, reset the offense. I think that could work. I just don't know. Um, I could,
thought
and
you were
I've been
out on
wrong.
him.
What's that?
I thought you said you were out on him.
I'm I'm saying I think he's probably not the guy, but I think one more go makes sense. And it's one of those where I feel like he probably isn't the guy. I think you just got to try one more option, but I'm not. It's not a full out like fire him today out. It's like I don't think this guy can win us a national championship, and maybe I'm kicking the can down the road. Maybe that's not the right move, but I think you have to at least try one more thing before pressing the nuclear button. Ty?
Teams, I'm going to bring up our favorite bit of analysis to do. Teams generally, they always improve or decline, right? There's always that normal up and down year over year. No two teams are the same. But anyone who's watched college football for any amount of time knows that there's a pretty predictable sort of normal range for that improvement and that decline. And when I look at our 2025 schedule, assuming every team on that schedule remains within that normal sort of up or down window that each one is naturally in, if OU doesn't greatly improve, we will be underdogs in 8 of these games. Like very easily. And I'm right. The one maybe little point to that one is South Carolina, but I think that it's later in the season, so anything can go either way. But like Michigan, I think we probably lose that one, and we're probably dogs against that team. Like if we played these teams this year, we'd lose to Michigan. We're that bad. We'd lose to Texas. We'd lose to Bama.
Yeah, but it'd be a dog fight.
Auburn, toss up. LSU probably lose to. Ole Miss lose. Missouri lose. South Carolina lose. Tennessee lose. Again, so like you're talking about a team that's going to beat Illinois State, Temple, and Kent State, or at least just be favored against those. Right, anything can happen. Right, Missouri is on the precipice of who knows what. Like I think South Carolina is trending upward. This gets very like hypothetical going forward. But I think we apply that 2025 schedule to this team as we know it right now, and we're not winning a whole lot of games. We're taking a step backwards.
I mean, I'm not going to chalk those up as auto losses, given the fact that this has been a season from hell, given your wide receiver injuries. Obviously, everything with the O-line has been bad. And you flip some of those games. Ole Miss loses a lot of people. Now you play them at home. Missouri is going to lose a lot of folks as well. You're playing them at home as well. So I think there are aspects that make next year's schedule a lot more winnable, where you can get more success. That being said, still the same schedule, just brutal. So it's not an. I agree. It's still a daunting task. It doesn't get a whole lot easier, but I'm not overly pessimistic that they can't win more games than. I think it could be possible they have a way better season next year.
Yeah, but if we're not winning 7 or 8, I don't even know. 7 we might be disappointed with. Maybe a relief, but I don't think Center fans will be happy with Brent Venables unless we win 7 or 8 games.
Like, yeah, 7 games. You got to win 7 games. Like, I would agree with that. Like, anything lower than I think 8-4 next year is not gonna.
I just don't see the scenario like with good odds that he's going to do enough to dig him out of this hole, Bobby. To where I know this has been oversaid over and over and over, but I think it's like a very, very good point to where, yes, we don't want to just throw away our culture and it's a big risk retooling. But if we hire a new offensive coordinator, Bobby, and it understandably fails next year under Brent Venables in the helm, then maybe we might have to be looking for a whole another one and again.
then yeah, you totally reset. I agree, but and Austin in the comments brought it up. You don't want to get to Nebraska. You don't want to get in a Nebraska situation where you pull the trigger too quick and then you fire your guy and then you bring in another guy who's worse than the other guy, and it just creates a snowball effect where things get worse. I also know you don't want to stick with a guy too long. I think one more year works fine for me, given it. I mean, we've seen offensive flip, with a coordinator change. Look what happened when Lincoln Riley came to you in 2015. It completely changed that offense entirely. So I feel like it's possible. It's got to be the right hire. It's got to be a big time one. And I think you need some probably some good help in the portal, but I don't know. If it's another Luttrell situation, then yeah, you got to get rid of him.
Yeah. And I feel like the Nebraska comparison, is scary. It really hits at like our insecurities, but you would feel like in the NIL day and age that teams won't plummet that fast, because if we've got money and donors, hopefully we'll be okay. Now, the problem is if we lose our donors, that's the big thing.
Well, yeah. And talk about money and donors. What happens when you're spending $70 million to pay for Brent Venables to leave? Like, the buyout issue heavily affects your ability to fundraise for NIL, to do so many things. It's all tricky, and Castiglione honestly shouldn't have given him that extension this summer. That was a disaster, huge. That was a mistake. And I feel like another example of OU admin and the football program kind of acting as business as usual, like it's still the Bob Stoops era, and it's very much not. It's very much not.
I will say this: if Oklahoma's administration feels they are hitting an absolute home run, big fish offensive coordinator hire, that'd be the only reason. That'd be the only reason I don't sack Brent Venables in the offseason. Like, if they have any doubt in their brain that this couldn't work the next season, that it might not work, I say you just scrap it. Brian Daboll from the New York Giants, question mark?
Oh, God.
I gotta say, right, I think you guys are right, specifically on the offensive coordinator and everything else. That certainly is the chance to turn this around, right, and to save the narrative, to save the Brent Venables career at OU. And Bobby made a great point bringing up the look at what Lincoln Riley did for this team and what he did when he came in as the OC and took over and completely changed that offense. But I would also like to point out that Lincoln Riley was hired by a very tenured national champion coach who had multiple head coaches at the time in his coaching tree already that were known for offensive prowess, right? You talk about all sorts of, I think like Kevin Sumlin was still fairly respected at A&M at the time. You had, obviously, Leach was out there at the time. Like, if Bob Stoops' coaching tree in 2015 when Lincoln Riley came in was very impressive, and the decision to make a change was triggered by an 8-5 season. OU was 11-2 in 2013, went 8-5, lost the Russell Athletic Bowl, and said, no, we're making a change, right? So I think I'm seeing a much more decisive, much more, inviting OU. And I think that's the big issue here with this that I do want to touch on is the court of public opinion in college football has never been strong, with the playoff committee and the mythical eye test that Boat Blake bemoans every time he comes on the pod. And with the portal and with everything else, with all the money and eyes that are on college football right now, the narrative about you is so important. Whether that's right, Jameson did his little segment one time about how Nick Saban didn't matter. And I understand I am straw manning that a bit, but he did have a point in there that was pretty relevant when he was making that argument. And it's that the coaches aren't necessarily fully responsible for the on-the-field performance of the X's and O's, the head coaches. But my argument to that is the head coaches are very responsible for the staffs they hire. That was one of Nick Saban's big secrets, and their ability to coach and develop staffs under them that in turn coaches and develops players and everything else that falls under the head coach's responsibility. And if I'm a hot shot offensive coordinator, or I'm a hot offensive coordinator in the NFL that's looking to make a move, or I'm a fairly decent offensive head coach that's maybe, looking to revamp my career and come, do an OC at a high profile job and turn something around and bounce a year or two later into a head coaching job. Do I really look at Brent Venables in Oklahoma? I think it's the same argument as a quarterback thing. I don't want to tie my resume to that if I have other choices out there. And I think that is a big, big issue that we are very rapidly approaching, especially if we're in year 3 of this regime and we're not going to go to a bowl.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Oklahoma still. It's a big name, big brand, and you're going to pay them big money for that risk because it is going to be a risk. Because if you show up and everything fails, then you're out of a job too. So it's going to be. I get it, but it's still Oklahoma, and I think there's still a lot you can work with there. But it's got to be a home run. It's got to be a home run, or else he's done. That's just kind of the plain and simple of it. So, yeah,
I'm ready to do it. We figure out the money later.
I just don't. I think the buyout's just it's too much. It's too much.
That's a whole different conversation there. I think the buyout is too much, and it's how did we get in this situation?
Are we now shifting to fire Joe C?
No, but I do think it's a very and I just want to voice, I think a question that a lot of OU fans have had. I've certainly had it as well, and we kind of bemoaned Bowden Blake when he came on and made this point, but I think it's relevant to the discussion, and that's of course the point of how did someone with a relatively unproven yes, no one knew. I certainly, you're not going to go pull the tapes and say, oh, Ty perjured himself here. I did not predict that this season would go the way that it did. I certainly did not. I thought that things were going to continue an upward trajectory with a little bit of a kick in the ribs from the SEC schedule, but I certainly did not predict this. And I was on the opposite side when Bowden Blake went and voiced his concerns over the contract. But looking back, I think he maybe was looking at this more objectively. And some of the points he made were, what other offers did Venables had that we felt that we needed to counter, because you can say, he goes into the SEC and does really good in year 1 and year 2. Then why wouldn't we write up a contract that's shorter and it's more reliant on that? And then, why do we give a guy such a massive buyout when he really hasn't been proven all that much? Which again, in hindsight, you definitely saw the school or the program trending upwards, not in hindsight, but at the time, I think the realistic evaluations saw the school trending upwards. Maybe that's confirmation bias of my own belief. But I think if you do look at it pretty objectively, especially with the benefit of hindsight, it is kind of a question mark as to how that length of contract and that size of buyout got to where it did in year 2 with such a big question mark going forward into the SEC, particularly when he didn't necessarily have any suitors whatsoever that were going to be appealing to take it.
So the reason why it happened is it's kind of it's essentially what Joe Castiglione's always done. It's a vote of confidence. After a couple years, you always boost them. So you always give them a couple more years to show that, you believe in the stability of the program going forward, and it's to kind of stabilize things, not to kind of keep them away from leaving or anything, but more of just kind of a preemptive vote of confidence sort of work. But it's unfortunate. It's pretty damn unfortunate because
I've always taken it as an under the table wink wink in your contract, something you really can't do like in the fine print, but like something that's like an understood to where like, hey, if you're at this mark in your journey, we'll give you a raise, but we're not putting that in the fine print. That's because we've seen that for a long time under the reign of OC.
Yeah. Again, the money itself year over year is not necessarily the issue. Really, it's how do we get in the approaching $50 million buyout situation is.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And I could see an argument for it. I just don't think that getting in the cycle is what's best, especially when like recruiting is where like at a pretty solid spot right now. And yeah, he whiffed hard on that hire. I would say he's probably shooting 500 on coordinator hires, because like Levy, even though we complained about him, that was a passable, serviceable offense. If you have that this year, it's a totally different situation. But I think it's got to be a good hire, or else he's done. That's just kind of how it is. So I don't know. Someone asked, yeah, Jimmy brought up a good point. BV also missed on Ted Roof entirely. Wow. Golly, you got fired halfway through UCF. So yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this guy, I mean, it's got to be, I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know.
Bobby, just say it. Just say it, Bobby. It's time.
It's not time yet.
You're saying you don't know how he's going to do it. So like, you can't keep saying that and then saying like, but I'll do it.
I think in Bobby's defense, it's one of those situations where we're starting to look at it. It's like, it's not mathematically impossible, but it's like, he's kind of in this situation where he's looking at his midterm or his final, and it's some sort of comprehensive final. And he goes, well, if I make 100 and then also get a 10-point curve, I can get a C in the class.
I've had some miracles happen. Ty. So that's a bad comparison. That's a bad.
I think that's a perfect comparison then, because that speaks to your mindset as to why you think this is still possible.
Yeah, there was one class I walked in after the final, and I was like, there's no way I did very good on that. And he's like, what grade do you think you should get in this class? I'm like, a B. And he's like, all right, cool. I just wrote down B and sent me on my way. I'm like, oh okay.
I think that's about how Josie. I think that's about how Josie and Brent Venables' contract negotiation went.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
What do you think your buyout should be? 50 million? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think my thing is I don't know about Brent Venables being the guy, but I don't know what firing him after 3 years, what that door looks like. And I feel like that is where it could really, really spiral. I really truly believe that there is a worst case scenario than keeping him. I think that scenario could be significantly worse. And if you have even an inkling of a shot to make this work and get a good OC hire, you take that chance. And then if it fails, you cut all
But
ties.
Is there a good hire?
I mean,
I think there might be.
I mean, there might be. I think there can be. I think he hasn't looked outside of OU really. I'm not saying it's probable. But I don't know. I don't think it's fully impossible. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, we'll be talking about the coaching situation at large in the podcast to come as it develops and everything. But I don't know. Is there anything? I'm trying to think of if there's other things to talk about, but like this is just the definition of a kick in the nuts type of game. Like a game you need to have against a team that's floundering with Brady Cook out, against freaking Drinkowitz, the most insufferable head coach of all time. Out here. The MIZ at the end of that, trash talking Bob Stoops at his press conference after the game because of a comment he made about how they always beat Mizzou. He's like, I guess y'all don't beat Mizzou's ass every year anymore. I'm like, you bozo, you barely escaped against a team that barely works. Like, it's just, and then having the gall to say that you're in the college football playoff hunt, and you can, sure, say you are, whatever. Like, internally, you can believe it, but we know who Missouri is. We know Missouri is not that level of team. It pisses me off that we had them right there and we blew it.
Yeah, I hate Drinkwitz just like you, but the dude won, so he gets to say what he wants. And you just let him do it. And you just get mad about it, but you gotta it's like he won. He did it.
Oh no, I'm not. I whatever.
They've got at South Carolina's defense. Drew Pine. If Brady Cook's not playing again, Drew Pine's going to throw for 28 yards.
Yeah, our guy. Our guy. Shane Beamer needs to do us a pretty big favor out there. But yeah, I guess you can talk whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school and that you should probably have a little bit more decorum than that. But
that's not who he is.
Yeah,
we gave the annoying kid at school all the fuel, and he gets to chirp.
Yeah, you just got to live with it. Don't let him win next time. And I don't know. It sucks, but that's why you don't blow games like that.
Good thing Xavier Robinson looks like a dude. Which transition?
Oh my God, love Xavier Robinson. And if anything, it makes me even more mad at DeMarco Murray for not playing him more. And I guess probably some of that's like a red shirt situation, but he is a dude. I loved him. He can, just really bring the boom on him. It's excellent.
Boom!
He gets
how many booms does Xavier Robinson get?
He gets 5 big boobs. Eli Drinkwitz gets a big
boom, boom, boom.
He didn't have to do all 5 booms. That's great.
Are we gonna give Drinkwitz the doom now? Can we get a doom?
Yeah, he gets a doom. Drinkwitz is back from all his study. He moves it after completion. That's funny.
I'll take some scraps right now. I can take whatever I can get. I'll be frank.
All right, no more scraps for Frankie. Here's a fun one. Jimmy asked what the record would be if Dylan Gabriel was still the quarterback.
One more win.
I think you beat Missouri, and I think you.
No,
I don't think you beat Tennessee. I don't think you beat Ole Miss.
You probably beat South Carolina.
I mean, there's a chance. I don't think Dylan Gabriel would melt down the way Hawkins did.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. The offensive line caused a lot of that baloney that we saw too. And Dylan Gabriel also was prone to mistakes whenever he was frazzled. So, let's not forget about that. So
I 3 consecutive,
it obviously wouldn't be that, but I think that we could have gotten a win versus Missouri. I can't confidently put my neck out there and say we would have beat South Carolina because that team's a damn good football team.
No, I agree. There are just too many variables. You don't know what that football game would look like if it was a normal game that wasn't a disaster.
Because I feel like this as a fan base and obviously as this podcast, we've hung our hat a lot on what the second half Sooners have looked like after really bad first halves. We saw that in the Tennessee game. And then we said it. We said it in the South Carolina game. I'm sorry, we just can't hang our hat on those things.
Yeah, I mean, it changes the pace. It changes everything. You can't just take those in a bubble and just let it go. But, yeah. Just not good, guys. So,
anyone else get some booms?
Oh, I mean, on defense, plenty of booms.
Billy Bowman.
Billy Bowman was phenomenal. Danny Stutzman, holy, what a dude! 19 tackles, left it all out on the field.
I felt so bad watching the video of him in the post game crying. Man, I feel so bad for him coming back and betting on himself, and he's done everything that he's needed to, and it's just it's probably not the vision that he always thought it was going to be.
No.
Do you think it hurt his stock potentially?
No.
It's probably neutral, but probably neutral in what people evaluate him as, but then it's just another year as a linebacker who's been hurt occasionally. So
so that's maybe, what I was going to say.
Maybe if you're looking at things, I don't think it's statistically significantly negative, but it's probably a little bit less just because he's a year older.
Well, then I think that's probably a massive L then.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the draft potential that he had last year, you got to take a big leap forward for it.
He was still a day 2 guy though. So like, maybe
Yeah, but now you got to date a guy with more wear and tear.
Like third round pick is probably like what he was looking at last year. You never know the way that he is and the way his personality is. It just takes one team to fall in love and overdraft him. And his personality is that kind of guy that I guarantee you someone's going to get him in an interview and he's going to draft above ADP just because of who he is. You see this all the time with these kind of players.
Yeah. Well, and also you have to look at draft stock versus, how much money you would make in NIL coming back to OU, because he definitely came back for a big package, you would imagine. I mean, he basically announced that he was going to the NFL and then flip-flopped. I think we still have a thumbnail up somewhere that says he's going to the NFL.
And the dude loves what he's doing here. Yeah. And like he's also the kind of guy, like an extra year as a college kid, like yeah. Like he probably loved being a college kid.
Yeah, for sure. Other boom, by the way, shout out to Zach Schmidt, 56-yard field goal. That's a big old boom. Like, that was great. I think it was the third longest field goal in OU history. So just absolute awesome. Just
I don't think he's kicked a 50-yarder in his career either. So that was awesome. That was big time for Zach Schmidt.
His previous I believe it outpaced his previous long by 12 yards. So it was that was an unbelievable kick.
Yeah, it was some mid 40s. I remember hearing it on the TV. That's like,
yeah,
good for Zach Schmidt.
Yeah, honestly, Luke Elzinga, good performance, good punting, great little pass to Bauer Sharp. That was delightful.
That was.
Speaking of Bauer Sharp, that's a big old. I don't know if it's him, but the little power option where having multiple plays a game still. In game 10, would we have seen so much about Bauer Sharp that we're giving the ball to him in the backfield and having him, it's an automatic loss. It's a loser every single time. Do not do that ever. And we did it twice. We did the little power, and then it was a little screen to him. I hate it. It's awful. I don't understand that one bit.
Joe John Finley legitimately does not understand what other position groups do. So he's just trying to plug his tight end hammer into every potential problem.
His tight end hammer.
Well, that was like, if you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. was the analogy there? But
Joe John just sticking his hammer everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a stat that sounds like something you would see on ESPN. I'm sure maybe someone on Twitter or something has said something like this, but I have a question. You guys are not going to have the answer. Bobby might have the answer randomly. Someone listening might have the answer randomly, but when is the last time that we had a player get double-digit rushing, receiving, and passing yards all in one game?
When is the last time we had that?
Yeah.
Baker?
I don't think that one receiving touchdown he had was double digits, though.
Damn. That was on a goal line play.
Taylor Tatum got
Dimitri Flowers
on a passing.
Did Dimitri Flowers throw a ball? Didn't he throw a ball once?
That maybe seems like something he would do.
Our college tenure.
Who knows? Do you have the answer?
Yeah.
No, I don't have the answer. I was just skimming the stats as you guys were talking and noticed that, and I was like, "Oh, that's some sort of triple-double there."
Cowboys. I know Braden Willis had a throw, but did he get the rushing yards? Sooner Cowboys.
I see. Big Nut said Blake Bell, which I thought of as well, but I don't know where he would have gotten rushing and passing in the same one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not rushing and passing in the same one. That was silly.
The receiving
in the same one.
Yeah, because he didn't. He was a tight end later, and when he was a tight end, he just stayed tight end, which is yeah.
It could be Baker. I'm not. Let me look up that Baker receiving touchdown. If that was over 10,
in the Rose Bowl. Which, speaking of, this had some big 2017 Rose Bowl vibes. Obviously, to a total significantly lower stakes, but on the heartbreak scale, where you just think you have it. Yeah.
That was something that I was actually talking about, sort of dark humor after the game. I was telling someone that the South Carolina game was almost better because at least then, like 10 minutes in, I knew it wasn't worth my time to care about it. Whereas Missouri, it was close enough the whole time that I had to stay invested. And then I got that roller coaster at the end where I legitimately thought we were going to win with a minute and a half left.
I felt pretty good for a lot of the game. More of the game, I was happy than sad.
I agree. I thought we were going to win that game most of the way through. I think
probably about maybe a quarter, 25% of the game, I was sad boy.
I would say less than 25.
Third quarter, I was feeling pretty sad, Bobby. Third quarter, beginning of the fourth, I was feeling sad.
After that first Missouri touchdown, or yeah, I don't know.
That mixed extra point, then I got a little bit of happiness from Missouri on that one.
Yeah. Austin says Gasparilla Bowl. It was looking real nice there for a while.
Ty still thinks that we can beat Alabama. Don't forget.
Oh god.
There's only one other team that's on a sharper downward trajectory. And people are going to say that's absurd. They just smoked LSU at home. They started at a much higher point. They started at literally the highest possible point that you can start.
Florida State. Don't forget about Florida State has one win on the season.
Did not start at the highest point because Florida State had one anomaly. That was an anomaly of a year, though. That's not a fundamentally strong program.
No, they're by far the biggest trajectory down.
No. I'm saying as a head coach, Florida State had one really good year. Alabama was there was not a program that it's not. This is not a bit. Okay,
Alabama,
right? Let's look at the argument. Bama versus Florida State this year, right? Alabama had the most fundamental program and infrastructure in college football. Florida State had a better record last year, yes. But if you were saying I run a million simulations, put a million different head coaches in those programs, the Bama program is what I'm saying is more likely to carry most of those coaches to looking better than they actually are than Florida State.
Well,
this is a bit about the guy who wears the t-shirt.
I understand you don't like Kalen DeBoer, but Florida State also just lost by 49 points this weekend. This was a team that was top 10.
I understand you didn't play. But you put DJU on your team. I don't know what you expect to happen.
Anyways, this is by far also DJU's worst team ever. So it's not all DJU. But no, I mean, Alabama after a 42-13 win at Tiger Stadium, it's hard to throw any bit of shade at them.
Florida State starting quarterback threw 5 completions.
Talk about a disaster, man. Good Lord. Speaking of, I will say a little bit more optimism for LSU because they brought in the fake Tiger. They brought in fake Mike. And everything went to hell. So there's a good chance they have insulted the Tiger gods by sending in a fake Tiger named Omar Bradley. And
if that's what we can hang our hat on for hope as a Sooner fan base, so be it. Y'all got any big plans on Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend?
I'm going to Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you are.
I will be there. It will be interesting.
Yeah, cancellation on those rooms.
I'm running. We're running it. We're doing it anyways. I don't know.
I will say if we get that's probably worth it, especially if we get night. I don't know if anyone else saw this because I know it was very close to, and I'm speaking to the listeners here. I know it was very close to the OU start, but that pregame for the LSU Bama game yesterday was absolute chills. The stadium was packed. It was like a light rain where you had raindrops on all the cameras. It was misty and foggy inside the stadium. And then the way they run their LEDs with the purple and the yellow and gold lights and the white lights and the lights turning off, that was the most electric atmosphere I've seen, I think, all year. It was something out of a movie. Obviously Bama went in there, and took care of business, and that wasn't great. It would have been much cooler, but that environment was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
Yeah, Baton Rouge.
Bobby.
Lord King Big Nuts just came up with an idea. He said,
I think this
you're going to need.
I really
need
to work.
You're gonna need to get a fruity pebble pickle and sum it up a W.
I
Here's my
think
I
this
do have
could
a-
work. I really do think this could work, Bobby.
I do
feel
have a
very
segment on this, Bobby.
I don't think I can go that low. I don't think trying to salvage a 5-5 OU bowl performance, taking a fruity pebble pickle to the dome for this OU team, do they even deserve that? I don't know.
Are you not like part of the team, Bobby? You don't feel like that you would do anything for this team just to make them better?
I feel like the ship sailed.
Mm.
I feel like the ship sailed.
I feel like a
on
true
this
fan would
edition.
do anything
They're on their
within
own.
their power.
I do need to.
I think they're on their own.
Chiefsaholic would have done whatever he could do.
You're damn right.
And look at where the Chiefs are at now because of him.
They've got so much karma on their side, and that's something we don't have as a fan base right now, Bobby. There's only one man who can do it.
So should I just start going on like a robbery streak, or should I eat a fruity pebble pickle?
I mean,
No, you have to have
which one's easier for
you have to.
Well, okay, so I'll go ahead and say this. You know, we're gonna do it right now. We're gonna do it.
You know what?
OU
I
makes
stole
a
a car
bowl-
2 years ago.
If OU makes a bowl game, if they beat Alabama or LSU, I will eat a fruity pebble pickle.
You'll
That's
eat
not
it.
how it works.
I will
That's
take
not
it
how
to
it
the
works.
dome.
You'll eat
I'll
it.
take it to the dome.
That's not.
So
how
I
it
want to
works.
clarify the verbiage.
That's how it
of
worked
the
last
eating.
time.
And
That's
you
how it
didn't
worked
do
last
it.
time.
And you didn't
Will
do
you
it.
actually complete the pickle?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
you'll
take it to the
complete-
dome.
And okay. All right.
If they do it, I'll take it to the dome.
You said this pre-Red River.
If they
And
make
you
a
didn't-
bowl, I'll do it. I did, and it worked. And then
No, it didn't. See, this
it
is
worked.
and this
It
is
did
a
work.
perfect
It did
segue.
work. What didn't work is I then besmirched the pickle, and everything went to hell.
Exactly.
Honestly,
perfect-
everything's been bad after said pickle.
Yes, this is a perfect
Agreed.
segue because what Bobby did was he made a promise to dome the Fruity Pebble pickle if OU beat Texas and Red River. And then the football gods saw fit to bless Bobby with an opportunity to show that he's a man of his word. And for whatever reason, right, maybe understandable reasons, he did not dome the pickle at the fair. And then plagues befell OU football until Bobby made a lower strength off-brand pickle that for a time dealt with the symptoms, but what occurred was the curse that the football gods put upon OU and Bobby basically became antibiotic resistant because of his lower dose of pickle that he took when he should have taken the name brand actual Fruity Pebble pickle at the fair. He was given
that's a
another
good
chance.
analogy. That's
Okay.
a good analogy, Ty. You always
So-
got to complete your antibiotics, and Bobby did not.
He didn't complete the regimen.
I notoriously don't
And
do that.
the
much.
And now
strong,
look
the
at
strong,
what
the
this is a
strong bacteria,
life-threatening infection we have now.
strong bacteria stayed in Oklahoma's football program, and those multiplied, and the stronger ones became an infection. And now here we
Something
are.
more,
Here's the
something more
thing.
than the pickle is going to be required.
Well, and here's something you need to understand about this too. There is no doubt in my mind that the Fruity Pebble pickle I made was significantly worse than the one at the fair. Like, that was a bad pickle. And I think partially some of it was because I didn't know how to make the pickle. I was kind of freeballing it. I was doing my best. So, you know, maybe we put the pickle on the shelf and do the bet. Just wait for the pros at the State Fair, Texas, to do it. And then
So you need a.
I don't
for
think I could
the
pull this
Fruity
off.
Pebble pickle. You need a whole dill pickle, and you need it on a stick. Did you have it on a stick?
He did not.
I
I
don't
don't think he
remember.
had syrup either.
Did you wrap it in a
I
fruit
did have a
roll-up?
syrup.
Oh, he did
Yes.
have syrup.
Okay, so was it fruit by the foot or fruit roll up? Because I feel like we said it wrong in the past.
It was.
I feel like it was both.
So fruit roll up is different. That's what it is. Fruit roll up, and then you coat it in sugar drizzle, and then Fruity Pebble cereal.
That's just syrup. Sugar
Yeah,
drizzle is just syrup.
I absolutely did the best I could. Sorry. I mean, I didn't do the best I could because I should have done it at the fair. That was a mistake. My hubris has led to all of this.
Ty, that pickle sandwich from Jimmy John's looks good. I don't know why you.
I
hate
think
it.
Bobby should be forced to dome that live on the pod. I
I'd
think
eat
that's
that
the
right
treatment
now.
that is
If you
required.
sent that to my house via DoorDash, I would eat that right now.
That's horrible.
DoorDashing
That's
that with
horrible.
the warm. I think we should just pull up. It's not mad. Let's just pull
We
it
gotta
up.
end the
Let's pull it up for the
podcast.
viewers. We can't deprive the viewers of seeing.
We
It's
gotta end
good. It's a pickle sandwich. You save some
Pickle,
carbs.
awful. So
How do you
bad.
screen share?
Ah. Y'all are just wild.
For the podcast listeners, we're currently debating whether or not Bobby should be forced to eat the Vito Pickle Witch from Jimmy John's.
That's a good sandwich. I would take it right now.
Yeah, I'm out on this.
I think
No pickle.
I think it should be toasted.
Whatever.
He should get it toasted though.
We should just cut the pod.
Yeah, I think that's about it for this show.
I think we should keep the pod going until we get another offensive coordinator and then see if it gets better.
Yeah,
that was a bit.
Oh, I thought that you were gonna cut it.
No, that was a bit about how we should just keep bad things going because we can always come up with another.
Well, hey, thank y'all so much for listening to this episode of the Schooner Pod. We appreciate y'all sticking with us through the tough season across the board. Really does mean a lot to us. Love the activity in the chat. And look, OU's going to get through this. I know it's bad. I don't know if it's going to be with Brent Venables. I don't know who it's going to be with, but I know for damn sure it's going to be with we're going to get through this together, OU fans.
It will end.
Bad. This too will pass. It will end. We'll figure it out. So, for me, Jameson and Ty, this has been the Schooner Pod. We'll see you next time. Have a bye week, so you don't have to worry about OU football for a weekend. That's a plus. Anyways, see y'all next time. Have a good one. Boomer Sooner, everybody.